Cyril Ramaphosa, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, government leaders here present, Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, and the leadership of the ANC and the Alliance at large, the Stofile family, Snambi, Mambamba, all protocols observed. Kudala kuthethwa ke apha so uzawulala ungandivi bantini. Just in case ungandiva usebuthongweni. Anzuthetha apha ndatsho nje umthandazo nomfutshane othi yanga ingqumbo nesingqala sika Stofile zingavakala. Yanga inyembezi zakhe in his dying days esithi zange silwele lento kunyembelekile malungisani maqabane zingaviwa ngabantu abahleli apha. May his yearnings for the movement to get back to its former glory be picked up by those amongst us who know what it took for us to get to be a free country. So, Comrade Stofile, umkhulu wam, and a great friend. Christians will tell you that when you choose somebody to be a godparent to your child, awukhethi nje nabani. You look for somebody who has certain values, certain character, certain conduct, somebody who represents something. After all, Stofile is a Presbyterian and I'm an Anglican. But as a family, we chose Stofile to be a godfather to our son, Zugisa. We chose this because he lived his Christian belief in his everyday life. He was a man of love. He loved his family. He had great humility and simplicity. He had no heirs. He valued and respected ordinary people, particularly the poor. He was courageous, he was fearless, he was daring. He was principled, he was scrupulous, he stood for something. He championed education, he understood it, understood education, sports and culture as tools for empowerment and development. Stofile was a development activist. Who wouldn't want, as you bring a young life up in this challenging society, to have somebody on your side who helps you bring him up? These are these solid values that made the revolution an attractive project for him. He was destined, therefore, he was grounded to become a public servant in leadership in government, a public servant. So when I talk here about Stofile, a family friend, I really want to reflect on the many conversations that we had, but on the most recent conversations. And I hope by the time I finish, you will have a sense of urgency. Stofile is a revolutionary who died with his boots on, even when some thought they demobilized him to the margins of the polity. When we all sloganeer and cry Amandla, we look all the same. When we sing and chant, our commitment and zeal for the revolution seem to be similar. But in our movement, as in everywhere else, there are different cadres. There are peacetime revolutionaries, and there are true cadres who took risks when it was necessary. Ikhona indoda ke yathi apha zemke inkomo amagwalandini. Ukhubusana lo wayesitsho. In 1906, that was his battle cry. Khubusana, by the way, just in case you didn't know, was one of the founding fathers of the African National Congress. An intellectual, I guess in today's lingua, a clever black. I'm not going to tell you the context in which he said, Zemke inkomo amagwalandini. Kodwa ikhona into kulaa ncwadi ethetha ngengcuka ezambethe imfele zegusha. Ubulele ke zikhona ingcuka nalapha ezambethe imfele zegusha. Uzukhumbula amazwi kaRhubusana xa esithi zemke inkomo amagwalandini. You must ask yourself whether this great revolutionary movement is going to go down and bite the dust even when you are there. That our movement is in crisis is trite, and it is beyond question. If you doubted it, look at what happened in the local government elections. The debate for us today, and the debate that we're having with Stofile, was why it is that it is in a crisis. What can we do about it? We've had many conversations, and I'm sure people who visited him in Germany as an ambassador and in other places would have had similar conversations. But one of the conversations we had at General Graeber's house at the break of this year with some of the few of his trusted comrades was a very painful conversation. And soon thereafter, we watched and listened, like all of you, the constitutional judgment in April around the Nkandla saga. On the 1st of April, we had a function at which he was present to celebrate my son's graduation. The president of the country made a statement in response to that judgment. We all congregated around the television in anticipation. It sounded like the second Rubicon of F.W. de Klerk. He failed to rise to the occasion. Isinqala nenyembezi zikaThahla uStofile uNdayeni maqabane zezingalwi elulwalweni emagadeni ahlabayo. Let Stofile's cry for the restoration of our movement to its former glory not be in vain. I know we're a movement in denial. For when we talk about why it is or where we are, we say it is because of the negative and hostile media. Maybe it is. We say it is because Western government are driving an agenda for a regime change. Maybe it is. We say it is because of clever blacks who are ill-disciplined and arrogant. We say it is NGOs who are agents of foreign interests. But Comrade Stoff would have none of it. He reminded us and reminded me all the time that, remember, O.R. Tambo encouraged us to be cadres with unquestioned loyalty. But here's an important qualification that Oliver Tambo made. that we must also be cadres with questioning loyalty. We must be questioning because answers come from asking difficult questions. And he never failed to ask those difficult questions. So he went beyond these superficial postures. He was able to do so because he never sought to please. He had already nailed his credentials during the tough times because he didn't join the ANC when it was fashionable to do so. He risked his life, safety of his family, his career to associate with the ANC at a time when it was possible to pay the most dear price for doing so. His prognosis for our crisis is that ukufa kusembizeni maqabane. Our setbacks are self-inflicted. We have ceded our moral high ground to the opponents. We say we're a party of the Constitution and we have a right to say so. But many doubt it because we give them reason to do so. For no less a person than the president of our movement and our country takes every opportunity to show nothing but disdain and contempt for our Constitution. We have been a movement from the many years when I joined as a young boy, where the ANC advocated and respected and promoted the independence of the judiciary and separation of powers. Which ANC is this, without any conference resolution, that makes statements that attack judges as counter-revolutionaries? Which ANC is this? We attack and undermine and show complete disdain for Chapter 9 institutions. And by the way, I need to remind you that as O.R. Tambo suffered a stroke, one of the chapters that he wrote as a precursor to this country was a conceptualization of the notion of the Chapter 9 institution. If you didn't know that, go and read the Harare Declaration. Who are these leaders of today who don't have a sense of that history? We are ceding this moral high ground. We are an ANC that can rightly claim that we are champions of human rights, not because it's a Western concept. We were among the first to adopt the African and people's rights. Nobody asked us to. That's why you have a Bill of Rights in our Constitution. But it must be a great shame, mustn't it, that under our own government, we kill in cold blood with horrific brutality workers for going on strike. We murder in full glare of international media Andres Tatane for engaging in service delivery protest. We say we're a party that is against corruption. And yet, at every moment, we're seen to be falling over each other to steal from the poor. All these things we do with absolute impunity. A movement like this prompts Desmond Tutu to take to the media and say, "You do not represent me." Comrades, we can't have that. But you see, this is what I mean when I say that we are ceding moral high ground. And then we look for scapegoats outside. That there are people who do not like us, there are people who are attacking us, there are people who are reporting negatively about us. We must introspect and look at what it is that we're doing wrong. That's what Stofile was arguing. But look at this example that he leaves us with. Unlike some, Stofile showed great respect for public office. He was burdened by the honor and responsibility that came with public office. As you drove here, Ingele is on your right-hand side. It's a rural village. During his tenure as the premier, he didn't give in any special treatment. Look again as you go out, it will be on your left. You will not find a palace worth over 200 million rand, an extravaganza amidst the sea of poverty. You won't find it. Mambamba's homestead is a decent yet humble abode. Stofile was a scrupulous leader. He knew that as a leader you start with the people and not with yourself. But you see, Udlangamanza, his brother-in-law, Uyinzaswisa, didn't finish the story here. But there's a very important chapter in Stofile's life. He was accused of corruption. A commission of inquiry was appointed. He didn't play avoidance games. He submitted himself to public scrutiny. He didn't mobilize politically. He didn't abuse state institutions to protect himself. He didn't try to block the inquiry. He didn't destabilize the National Prosecution Authority, the police, the intelligence, and other security structures to defend himself. He humbled himself. He showed respect for the law and for the people that put him in position of responsibility. He followed due process. Of course, the Commission of Inquiry made an unfavorable finding. When it made an unfavorable finding against him, he didn't cast aspersion against it. He didn't insult the judiciary. He took the matter on judicial review and cleared his name. Anybody who says Stofile was corrupt today will be wrong, because a judge of a high court found that the Pillay Commission was wrong. Stofile was not corrupt. That's what you do when you respect public office. He had an understanding of public office, respect for the people, and that thing called accountability. Because accountability, you see, is an important measure of respect for the people. It is an important measure of respect for public office. You don't, when you call to account, plunge Parliament into chaos. You don't, when you call to account, plunge constitutional bodies like the Public Protector into enemies of the people when they are not. You don't compromise the hope of the downtrodden and the oppressed people of the country, their own movement, ANC, mobilize it into an organizational machine to defend you in your own transgressions. You don't do that. When the Constitutional Court makes a finding that you broke your oath of office, what it means is that you are honorable no longer. What it means is that you are untrustworthy. Kwabani zemkingo mama kwalandi. Zemkingo mama kwalandi, because today we all call each other comrade, comrade, comrade without distinction. Cadres of Stof's ilk were sidelined in favor of a different kind of cadre. The new cadre who sees in the ANC an opportunity to get the benefit, because it is rewarding to be associated with the ANC these days. And the queue of people who want to join is long, you don't have to work hard. ANC membership often opens up opportunities. So the fight for leadership roles is not about giving, it is about proximity to resources for yourself, for your family, and for your cronies. Several Secretaries General reports to various congresses and policy conferences of the ANC commented about this, but nothing done. And so the reality of the matter is that some of the leaders have been co-opted to be among those who are on the eating trough. So we must ask a question: do we have leaders of a revolution, or do we have full-time thieves and looters? For there can be no doubt today that the balance of forces in the movement has changed. It has changed in favor of the forces of corruption. Sigutyungelwe ngamasela nabarhwaphilisi. Our movement is captured, and consequently the state is captured. Our revolutionary project is under threat. But here are the consequences. As we abandon the roads, South Lahla Ekaleni is the vato that defined the ANC. There were many others that were only too keen to pick them up and wear them with pride. There were many who were prepared to pick these up and wear them with pride. Ngoku xa ujonga over Honorable Trollop ethetha uthi ingathi ilanda ibithethe embuthweni nje leya. Xa umamele over uDali nanga apha ngemva umva ethetha mani ngumcimbi wombutho lo uthethwa nguDali. It is because Tina, our great positions, our great policies, we have abandoned, we insulted in favor of things trivial. Zemkingoma Magwalandini. In 2004, we had 69% of the electorate. In 2016, we were 54%. Comrades, unless, I will say this to you, unless drastic steps are taken today, in 2019 will come down to less than 40%. I want to tell you that all of us are enjoined as disciplined cadres of this movement. Sorry, Comrade Chair, I'll wrap up. We're enjoined as disciplined cadres of the movement to not speak in public, but engage the movement quietly. Many of us have tried. Comrade Stofile himself submitted many letters to the ANC. But guess what? His letters went unanswered. We must ask ourselves if we're about changing our movement's mission. We have come down from where we were. Under this leadership, what we've experienced is a cataclysmic anticlimax. What we're seeing is nothing less like grotesque and unmitigated chaos that prevails. It's time for new leadership. Comrades, leadership is not fun. Leadership is about responsibility. I'm very disappointed that the president was not here because I prepared this speech in anticipation of him being here. If the president was here, if the president was here, I would have asked him as my leader. I would have begged him, I would have pleaded with him. I would have prayed. Bendizamnqenqeza, bendizambongoza. Ndithi mkhulu wam Msholozi Nqamalala, nikezela intambo, kunyembelekile. The next battle cannot be led by a leader that has humiliated our organization and undermined everything that we represent. Comrade SG, I appreciate your presence. And one of the things that I'm very excited about is the decision of the National Executive Committee at its last NEC meeting. The National Executive Committee of the ANC says, with the setback that we have suffered, we take collective responsibility. But you see, Comrade SG, that falls short. That is not good enough. A person who takes responsibility falls on their sword. So the leadership that has got us to a crisis that we're in must also accept that it is not capable of launching us in a new battles to make sure this organization survives. I join others who make the call that it is urgent that an elective conference of the ANC must be held. But that's not enough. I would also suggest that you please convene a committee or a council of stalwarts and veterans of our movement. Comrade Thabo Mbeki, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe, Comrade Kathrada, Comrade Winnie Mandela, Comrade Dennis Goldberg, Comrade Sophie de Brie. Call all of them in, convene them in a special committee that will be responsible for ensuring that we convene a credible elective Congress. I want to ask you to ask the leadership to please consider mandating the Integrity Committee of the ANC to ensure that all delegates who don't go to the next elective Congress subject themselves to a lifestyle audit as Funi Masela as Asmuleles Ninko Keli after this. I pray, comrades, that we find younger leaders. It's about time those amongst us who are aged spend their time playing with their grandchildren. They need us. I will conclude with this, that Lama Kabane ahamba embutweni aya kwi-COPE, aya kwi-EFF, aya kwi-United Front. The disgruntled ones who didn't vote, don't give up, comrades. Let's come back and fight. This battle is not over. And so if we really want Prastov, Allah Ngoxolo, if we want his cries in his deathbed not be in vain, we must do exactly these things. Zemkingomo makwalandini. Rest in peace, Tasha. Dayeni. Thank you very much.